Welcome back. Tonight's Daily Viewpoint. Attorney General Eric Holder is calling on all states to allow felons to vote after they finish serving their prison terms. Now, 11 states, mostly in the South and the Midwest, permanently ban felons from voting in any election. Texas is not one of them. According to Holder, an estimated 5.8 million Americans are prohibited for voting under this ban or similar bans. He says it really perpetuates the stigma and isolation for people who have served their time and have tried to make their way back into society, and that it has a disproportionate impact on minorities. So should felons who have finished serving their sentences be allowed to vote? And, you know, this is highly appropriate. We're coming into an election cycle once again, and you may not think about it, but there is a real stigma in prohibiting people from exercising a constitutional right, even though they've served their time.
Right.
So
I think once you serve your time, you should be able to vote. I mean, should you be penalized for the rest of your life? What about that 18-year-old who, you know, maybe got a DWI felony or something like that, and they've gone on to either complete their probation or complete their prison sentence? Why not? You've paid your debt, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm getting kind of picky here, but you make a great point about somebody, as you said, as an 18-year-old drunk driving or something, and say, okay, he served his time, he did his thing, let's move on and give him a break. But somebody that was there because they are there for first-degree murder or something like that, no, I don't think they should. So I think they should differentiate, not just say all felons, but
That's interesting.
Do you know this? If you do this, because if
you're a violent offender,
yes, a violent offender or something like that, you take somebody's life or something that drastic, I don't think you deserve anything. I'm not a death penalty guy, but I would probably sit there and say, well, you know, I don't think you should be allowed to do anything. You just don't do that.
Well,
you know, and then be forgiven for it.
We have so few people who vote in the first place.
Yeah.
You know, I think if you've served your time, you know, you've paid your price back to society based on paid your dues, whatever the jury decided or the judge in whatever case, I think you should be able to vote. And,
yeah, I do too. I think that,
and I do too, except
for the violent,
except for the violent guys. Yeah.
I think even in violent situations, that's a tough one. But I still think if you have gone to prison and served your 20 years. Who knows? That person could be a changed individual. And, you know, I guess...
what about the family that lost... I know some families that have lost a loved one as a result of some violent crime.
But do they have to pay for the rest of their lives?
Well, that other family's paying for the rest of their life.
I know, and they paid their debt by being locked up.
The jury decided
you know,
how they should be sentenced.
They spent 20 years in prison, then I think their debt is paid. But, you know, I also don't know somebody who's been personally lost a member who's been murdered. But logically, I guess I feel like once they've gotten their sentence, they've paid their debt, whether it was 10 years, 1 year, 5 years, whatever. If you're done and you're off paper, I think it is your right, your right to vote, your inalienable right.
I agree, and I think it may not be a bigger issue, but an equally important issue is getting people engaged once again in the political process.
But I bet you can convince some senators or somebody to pass that law. That
if you want to start a petition,
I bet you could. I bet you could.
The Scott Murray bill, right?
But I think there would be people at home who thought you killed my mom or my dad, and you know, whether it was drunk driving or whatever, manslaughter, whatever, who thinks you should just not be alive, you know.
Well, I'm not totally an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth.
Right.
So.
But you're tough in that respect. But I can respect that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it, and that, you know, it's just the overall number of people, the percentages continues to shrink in most races. Not always. Some presidential races.
Where does it stop? If they can't vote, then they should they not be hired and get a chance to work? Should they not be, you know?
Very quickly, what I'm using is a woman and her son were killed in a robbery.
Okay.
And the guy lives to this day, and he's lost his son and he's lost his wife. And it happened, 15, 20 years ago. You know, so I don't know.
No, I respect it.
I know, it's tough. But you're wrong in this case. Totally wrong. Sorry.
Well, that's why we do this show, right?
I know. The opinions don't always align. Should have warned you about that. Coming up next on the Texas Daily, you can't battle Mother Nature, so why not just have fun with it? We'll take a look.
And the roads will glisten. Polar vortex has a hold of us tightly. Wind like a harpoon, daily and nightly. Will the power stop? No, I don't know. Turn up the heat and let go. Sleep falling down like a million missiles, bringing school delays and early dismissals. Dance.